Welcome to the Angel and Tina Morning Show. It is Monday morning. Angel is not here today, obviously, you can tell. She she is at an event in Chicago. So let's all say hi to Angel. Hi, Angel, we miss you. But I have a special guest in the house, Jennifer Moran.
Whoop, whoop. Excited to be here. Filling in for Angel.
Filling in for Angel. Well, actually, she's our guest today. But next month, she is going to be our co-host for a couple of days while Angel is away. So she was going to be our guest anyway. So it's kind of like a little test run with you, Jennifer.
Yay. It's like an audition. I'm auditioning.
You're auditioning, like back in the day when, you were acting.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day when you're actress.
Audition. Hopefully I'll get a call back.
You're definitely going to get a call back. She's like one of my most favorite people in the world. Jennifer, so where are you coming from?
I'm coming to you live from Friendswood, Texas, which people are like, where the hell is that?
Where is Friendswood, Texas?
It is just south of Houston, between Houston and Galveston. So we're real close to the Gulf down here. Basically, they call it the Bayou City. In other words, it's a real nice way of saying we live in the swamp. I'm pretty sure Shrek lives next door. Yeah, we're in a swamp down here. We're kind of on the same parallel as Nolans. So we get, we have hurricane parties every time it blows,
Okay, so when you say Nolans, because you can't say New Orleans. So when I had a trip.
Definitely do not say New Orleans.
New Orleans. So when I took a trip down to New Orleans, I went down there and they were like, no, you got to say it like Nolans.
It's Nolans. Actually, a lot of them say NOLA. They just say they're from NOLA. But yeah, Nolans. Yeah. No. In fact, a friend of mine who grew up down there, and I forgot what area, I think she said it was the kids that grew up in Metairie, which is like kind of a area near Nolans. I think it's just to the north, but I think it was Metairie. I don't want to make people upset if they're from Metairie right now, but she said they used to call, and I don't know, it might not have been Metairie, but she said there was an area where they called everybody Yats because they always said, "Where Yat?" And she said, and sometimes those Cajun accents sound a lot like New York accents. My dad was from New York, and those Cajun accents, the way they like, "Well, yeah," and they're really, they're talking Cajun French, they always say, "Oh, cher, what you doing, cher?" But when they do it,
that does have a little New Yorkie like slang to it.
It does. My best friend was from Lafayette, Louisiana, and her dad was Cajun and her mom both. Her mom was a Calais and her dad was an Hebert. Her last name was Hebert. And you may meet her someday, I'm sure. But anyway, yeah, her dad. And I had taken French for 14 years. And I rolled up in their house in Lafayette and he starts popping off to me in French. And I didn't understand a word he was saying because
like, what?
French is totally different. Like I learned the see spot runs fast kind of French, where you when you go somewhere, you say nous allons. Nous allons means we go. But in Cajun French, it's allons-y, which means come on, let's go.
What? Okay, so I took French in high school, but it was right before lunch. So I always skipped it because I wanted a longer lunch because we had an open campus. Yeah. So we couldn't ever speak English in the class.
I know, we couldn't either.
Yeah, he would always say, Mademoiselle Tina, da 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 da. And so my favorite thing was je ne sais pas, because that means like, I don't know.
I don't know, je ne sais pas.
And as long as I said je ne sais pas, he would be like,
oh.
I said
then we could speak French on the show. I could say, Tina, comment allez-vous?
And I wouldn't say nothing. I would say, je ne sais pas.
Je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas.
And that would be my whole thing.
Well, I tell my kids, I took it 14 years, meaning literally from kindergarten through 8th grade was 10 years. Actually, it was junior kindergarten through 8th grade. So it was 10 years. And then I moved to Texas and I took French my freshman year, but I found out all the cool kids took Spanish. So then I switched to Spanish.
That's what I did.
And I ended up going back to French, I want to say my senior year. And then when I was going to Texas Tech University for college, you could take these CLEP tests where you can CLEP out of a class. I forgot what CLEP stood for. So I clipped out of all my freshman English, and then I did one for French, for foreign language. And they came back and they said, well, you have a half a semester and instead of a full semester like the other one. And I was like, why? And they said, well, you kind of failed your verbal, because living in North Carolina, okay, I had a nanny when I was younger. My dad, since he was an Army colonel, he loved to get au pairs, you know, from all over the world. So I'd have a different nanny, I swear, every year because their visa would expire. But one of them,
10 different languages.
Yeah. And he wanted me to learn languages, although it was kind of stupid because 2 of them were from England. So that didn't help. But one was from France, and her name, literally, I know it sounds cliche, but her name was Jacqueline. And Jacqueline came and spoke to my French class when I lived in North Carolina at my private school, and basically told my parents that my French teacher, who was from France, but she had married somebody like in World War II or something and had always lived in North Carolina. She said they're learning French with a North Carolina accent. So I basically was like going, hey, y'all, in French somehow. So, which that's really Texan, but you know what I mean.
Well, they say that here too. So I live in North Carolina, as you know, in Charlotte, but I'm not from here. I moved from California, being a Cali girl, to Georgia. And I never knew how Southern people were until they started talking. And they would always tell me, Tina, you talk so fast. And I'm like, nobody's ever told me that, because they talk so slow.
Well, see, my dad was from New York and my mom was from Texas. So when I'd go to New York, they're like, you're not from around here, are you? Because I talked with my Texas accent, but they kind of thought maybe I was from New York because I talked really fast because of my dad. But on the flip, it was in reverse when I would go to Texas. And then in North Carolina, oh my gosh, I dug up some old tapes the other day, and I was playing them for my kids because my dad recorded me practicing the 23rd Psalm for my private Christian school that I went to.
You have a VCR?
Oh, girl. Now I'm showing my age. This was pre-VCRs.
We're like,
it was an old cassette tape from Radio Shack that you push play on and record.
I know. I still have some cassette tapes. You know, like back in the day when guys would make you like mixtapes and like.
Yeah, mixtapes. I have a mixtape from the start.
I still have a ton of those, but I have a cassette player, so I would not know how to play it at all.
Yeah. Well, I played a cassette because, believe it or not, my husband has a boom box from like back in the 80s. It's like a Hitachi and it still works, that thing.
Does he put it on his?
Literally, it looks like the ones like they used to be like bumping.
And they would be breakdancing with
roller skating with their comb in their back pocket.
We are just so telling our age today.
Oh my gosh. I know the kids right now are like,
they're like, what's a cassette tape? Oh my God.
What is a boom box? They're looking it up in a dictionary. No, but literally, so meanwhile, back at the ranch, so I'm playing this 23rd Psalm, and I had the thickest, and I remember, because when I moved to Texas, I had this thick North Carolina accent. And everybody was like, what planet are you from? But I really figured out the differences between Texas, because now everybody's like, for sure, they know I'm from Texas. But back then, I was rolling all my O's, you know, like North, it was North Carolina, you know, everything up there. I'm from Norfolk. It's Norfolk. It's like I do declare. Everything's all the vowels are like up here somewhere.
I have a little North Carolina. I can talk like a North Carolina Southern belle.
Yeah. You have to say, well, I do declare. I am from Norfolk. Everything's everything's like that.
And I never knew what Norfolk was. I was like, what are you saying?
Yeah, it's Norfolk. Yeah, it's Norfolk. Yeah.
I would say, wait, what did you just say?
Yeah. And it's right next to Portsmouth. I was born in Portsmouth. And people say Portsmouth. And I'm like, no, it's like Portsmouth.
Portsmouth.
Yeah. But it's Portsmouth. It's right next to Norfolk. I promise we're not drinking, folks.
We're only drinking coffee.
There's no Baileys in it. No Baileys.
I'm probably thinking there might be some Baileys in here. When me and this girl get together, it is nothing but fun. So let me just tell you, if I ever move to Texas, we're gonna have to do some kind of radio show because
we'll be like Thelma and Louise. Well, we still need to do a radio show. You know that.
We've been talking need to do that. Would totally be cool to do a radio show.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jennifer, tell our audience members a little bit about who you are, your background, how you became this amazing Jennifer Moran.
Well, when I was 5, I won the Nobel Peace Prize, and then when I was 8, I became an astrophysicist. No, I'm kidding. No, how far back do you want to go? So I was born in Virginia. I lived in North Carolina for 10 years. I moved to Texas right before my freshman year in high school. My parents were older when they had me, which, you know, this is kind of the sad part of the story, but my dad died when I was 16. My mom died when I was 22. So, but they kind of prepared me for it because they were, like I said, older when they had me. And I miss them every day. I mean, my mom especially, she was my best friend. But my dad was very achievement oriented, like overachiever extraordinaire. And he himself was an overachiever, literally.
He's an Army colonel, you know, you kind of have to be.
Yeah. Went to college at 13, and I'm not kidding. I even have a newspaper article to prove it to you.
What? Your dad went to college at 13?
Yeah, he went to college at 13. I'll shoot you the article afterwards. But he went to, and I kind of I knew that because he talked about it, but my dad and I really butted heads when I was a teenager, just because he was older and an Army colonel. But I kind of didn't believe him. And then I started digging up all these articles and stuff that talked about his background. But you know, he was born in 1911. Literally. Like I used to show my friends his driver's license because he was born on July 9th and it was 7/9/11. And I just thought that was cool. But then my friends would be like, 1911? I mean, their grandparents were born in 1911.
How old would he be right now?
Well, he was 55 when I was born, which was 1967. He was 72 when I died. When he died.
He was
72 when he died. I was 16. I swear my brain's working.
100.
In 1983, so I'd have to do the math on that, but 72 in 1983. I don't know. I'm not a numbers person. What is that?
I'm not. Me neither.
I don't know. I don't even have a calculator. Hang on.
1911. It's 2021.
Oh, there you go. He'd be 100.
He would be 100.
No. 110. He'd be 110. Yeah.
Oh my! Wow.
Yeah.
That was 55 when he had you.
Mm-hmm.
How old was your mom?
My mom was 42. They were 13 years apart, second marriage. 13 is a big number in my family. In fact, literally my lucky number is 13. My parents were 13 years apart. My sister was 13 years older than me. Just all this crazy stuff has happened around the number 13. My daughter's soccer number was 13, and she was a badass soccer player. So that's kind of my lucky number. But yeah, so you know, it was different growing up with older parents. There's things I really love about it. It made me kind of an old soul at a pretty young age because none of them, you know, none of their friends had little kids. So I was always around adults. I mean, always. In fact, it was really to the point where I always thought when I grew up and got married, I didn't even want kids. I didn't really like kids because I myself, I mean, it's not that I wasn't a kid. I was a big kid, still a big kid. But, you know, I was basically an only child. I had half brothers and sisters, but they were out of the house. My half sister from my mom's first marriage, she was kind of a Doogie Howser herself. I mean, she went to college at 16. So she was out of the house by the time she was 13 years older than me by the time I was 3. So I am everyone's worst nightmare. I'm basically an only child that was the baby of the family. So, you know, I just sit around with my tiara all day waiting.
At this age?
Huh?
Do you imagine having a baby at this age?
No, because I just can't imagine that. I mean, I'm in health and wellness. That's what I do for a living. So I feel way younger than I am. I kind of forget it sometimes because I'm 54. I mean, I don't mind telling people that. But I'm constantly saying things like, yeah, that older lady over there, that lady over there is like 50 or something. You're and then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm an older lady. I'm older than her.
You know, when you were younger, you would be like, I am never going to get 50 is like so old.
50 is ancient. 50 is
we
one
are.
foot in the grave, one on a banana peel.
Right. I'm not 50 yet, but I still feel like I tell myself all the time, I'm like, my mom was a grandma at 35. She had me really early and I had a baby at 19. And I'm like, when she was 45 years old, she had 10 grandkids. I don't have any grandkids. Thank the Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
But I do not look like a grandma.
No, you don't.
And I forget that how old I am. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to tell myself, oh my God, 50 is so old. I don't want to live past 50. I want to die when I'm younger.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, hell no.
I know. Well, I mean, I remember thinking 30 was old.
Right.
And you know what's weird? I was telling my husband this the other day is for years I was stuck on the number 54 for my mother's age. I used to always say my mom's 54. I always would forget how old she really was, and I would just say she was 54 because it was just old AF. And in my mind, and then the other day I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 54, you know? So yeah, it's a little weird. I mean, in fact, right here by my desk, I'll show it to you if I can get it off the wall, which I think I can. This is my mother sitting at her desk back in the day.
Wow.
She was a journalist. And that's her sitting. That's a picture of my sister Melissa on her desk. That's not me. That was when she was married before, but she was a journalist. She graduated from University of Texas. I used to think it was 1947 because I had this mug from her sorority, but I actually found her diploma the other day and it was 1951. But she graduated when most women didn't graduate. She was also a editor for the Daily Texan, which UT's paper, the Daily Texan, is a big deal for journalists. Like if you were on the Daily Texan staff, you pretty much are guaranteed a job, New York Times, Washington, wherever you want. So she was an editor for the day. She was one of the first female editors for the Daily Texan. And then she went on to work for UPI in Dallas and the Associated Press. And then she also did a lot of freelancing. But when she met my dad, she was working for the San Antonio Light there in San Antonio. And so she covered an awards banquet he was speaking at when he was commanding officer of Brooke Army Medical Center. And that's how they met.
Oh, what a good story that is.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was different growing up. You know, I grew up listening to like old jazz music, which I still love to this day. You know, my parents were better off financially in life because they were older. So I did a lot of travel when I was younger, which, you know, I'd kill to do those travels now. But, you know, before I was 14, I'd been to multiple countries and Greece and, you know, my dad loved to travel. So we went a lot of places. You know, and I was afforded the opportunities to do a lot of things when I was younger, but it all kind of came to a screeching halt, you know, when my mom passed away but, you know, I've always spent my life trying to make them proud of me and, you know, not let it go, you know, to waste all the efforts that they made to give me culture. You know, they always took me to the symphony and, you know, which I hated going to the symphony. That I would have rather run a cheese grater down my arm. I hated going to the symphony. But now I really enjoy symphony music. I like tear up and I was like, oh shit, it worked, you know?
Because it reminds you, you know, that music, I think music and smell gets me a lot. That, you know, hearing a song or the smell of something takes me back to a memory immediately.
Yeah.
And like, you know, music, I love music. You know, Spanish people, we listen to music all the time. Morning, noon, and night, we listen to music.
I do too. I feel weird without music, which is odd. I mean, and now that I look back, I grew up with a lot of music in my house, which is crazy considering, you know, there wasn't Alexa back then and, you know, you didn't have your iPhone with you, but, you know, it was these big.
Alexa just went, huh?
Alexa went, huh? But there's these big, you know, they had the big reel to reels and they had, you know, albums but there was always music going in our house. And my dad did a lot of musical theater. He was from New York. So his hobby was acting. And so, you know, and that's one of my best memories with him is we did a lot of acting together at the Raleigh Little Theater in Raleigh, North Carolina and the Village Dinner Theater. So I did a lot of
come to North Carolina so we can take a trip to Raleigh together.
I know. I've told everybody I need to come to Raleigh. And I need to eat at the Angus Barn because that was my parents' big, like when we had a big to-do, a big night out, we'd go to the Angus Barn.
And it's still up?
It's still up from what I understand. I don't know how good it is, but you know,
you're gonna have to make a trip. You're gonna have to make a trip over here to North Carolina so we can do that. We can go down in a little bit.
And I went to sailing camp out there too. In fact, I may come up in August. Don't get your hopes up.
Well, not in August. My whole August is filled.
Why? Why are you so busy and bougie? What are you doing in August?
I'm coming to you in the beginning of August to San Antonio for another event down there with Janet, with her real estate
How long are you staying?
Like 5 days, 4 days, but it's only in San Antonio. And
are
then
you only speaking one day?
Yes.
Okay, well, are you going to hang out with me the rest of the time?
Well, of course.
I'm going to fight Janet.
I know, right? Last time I went to San Antonio, a friend of mine, Janet, we've been like good friends for like 17 years. She came out there, and then Jennifer and I have never met in person. So she drove out and we all just hung out all day long. We had like the best time ever.
We did. And I love Janet because Janet is like, she was cracking me up talking about rolling up to pick her kids up from daycare wearing all her Gucci stuff. And that literally the other moms thought she was a stripper. And she's not. She's a realtor. She makes a crap load of money.
Right? She was like, yeah, that's what I do. And then my youngest son, who's in the Army, is coming home for 2 weeks. So I'm going to spend time with him because he goes back to Korea in October. So we're going to go down to Atlanta for a week, hang out with my older son, hang out. We might take a trip down to the beach. And then at the end of August, I'm going to Orlando because I'm the MC for a big event for beach boss influencers.
Oh, wow.
So like my whole August is filled.
That's exciting, Tina.
Yes. So
when are you moving to Texas and coming and living with me?
I think, well, since the day
so that we can take over the world. I'm saying it here live on camera.
Tina, when are you moving to Texas? I always said, you know what?
Inquiring minds want to know.
If this whole dating,
hang on.
I know, right?
We're listening.
If this whole dating thing does not work out, I'm gonna probably move. I feel, I don't know what I feel. I love Texas. I've been there like 4 times this year already. And all my people, like, I feel like all my people are in Texas.
All your people are. You don't have any exes in Texas, but
I don't have any exes in Texas, which is, the funny thing about it. But like we just have so much.
But you need some. Come find a guy and then break up with him, and you'll have an ex in Texas.
I don't want to have no exes. I just want to meet the love of my life and like live happily ever.
What if you meet him on your trip?
Right? Then I can move to Texas.
Exactly.
Right?
All right. Well, I'm going to plan it all out because we're going to figure out a way to meet some really amazing men while you're here.
Every time Jennifer's out walking in her neighborhood, I text her. I said, "Go knocking on the doors and say single."
You don't want to marry anybody in my neighborhood. They're all not. I mean, they're nice. They're okay. But I mean, it's one of the crazy things, and I think all you wealthy people out there can relate. It's not that did that sound like bitchy or what?
That sounded so like I'm so rich and
I'm so wealthy, which I'm really not. If you saw my bank account right now, but, because my kids are breaking me. I always, they always say new levels, new devils, different levels of broke. Like you see things like, how can Johnny Depp go broke? How can Bill Cosby go broke? But I get it because in fact, I might have told you this, Tina, but I felt like back in the day, and here's a little bit of my background. I'll give it in a nutshell, but I was in pharmaceutical sales for 15 years. And then I entered network marketing, and I've become a top earner in network marketing. And it's totally changed my level of thinking in terms of what I think a lot of money is. But I figured out like things that used to cost me $1,000 that I thought I was like, why is everything $1,000? I feel like everything now is $5,000. Like you want to hire a coach, $5,000. You want to go to a weekend, it's $5,000. And in a lot of cases, it's 25 grand, or like the numbers just go up astronomically, I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, I just paid for my son to go to this camp. It's almost $3,000. And then I paid for my other kid to go to camp, and it was almost $4,000. Then I had to pay my accountant, and it was $7,300. Like, it's like,
who else needs money?
Like, I have no money, like I'm broke. But no, it's for real. It's like every time you turn around and it's just more things that you're spending money on, with success. But back to the neighborhood thing, I kind of liked it better when we lived in a neighborhood where the houses were smaller because you kind of got to know your neighbors. Here, nobody goes I mean, you'll see people
probably
out
because everybody's working their butt off because they live in such a big house and no
yeah.
time to do anything.
Well, it's that, and it's also when you're on, like, most of the houses out here, right? You're on 1.5 to 2 acres, and you're just not bumping into people like normal. You know, like in a smaller neighborhood, you go out to take your garbage out and you see your neighbor. You know, you can see him here, but you can't talk to him. You're waving, because if you were talking to him, you'd be shouting. Like, we know our next door neighbor, our next door neighbor. We know him. In fact, our son dated his daughter, but for a little while. But you know, and we know everybody around here, but it's not like we all get together. Plus, we're all a little bit older. Whereas not fast forward, but rewind. When I was fresh out of Texas Tech and I was living in Atlanta at the time, and we had bought literally our first house ever, and it was in a little brand new subdivision in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and in Gwinnett County. That thing was party central because we were all young, and some people were having kids, but most people were just newly married with no kids. And it was literally every weekend. In fact, it was kind of a little scandalous. There was some stuff that went down. Like, I could write a book, but it was like every weekend we'd rotate around, and we'd go cook chili at somebody's house, or we'd do a cookout somewhere else. And it was just party, 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 constant party. And you don't see that. You get older, you have kids, your whole social dynamics change.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about two different groups that we have going on Facebook.
Okay.
One of them is one of the best groups ever, and it's called Rebel Road Sisters.
Yeah, I love Rebel Road Sisters.
Tell us all about RRS.
Well, our motto is "Well-behaved women rarely make history." We do that as a toast every time we get together over a tequila shot. But and then I jokingly always say, we definitely sum up the motto that we love Jesus, but we drink a little. So we're not an out of control, women's group. We're not, this isn't about, bashing, men or, and I'm not against that. I'm not against feminist groups, like I love, Boss Babe and, the Champagne Diet and all these different that are very women empowering, but we're not really like that. We're very laid back. It's very much a Texas vibe. It's just about owning your power and being authentic and supporting other women right where they're at, and not being in this competition. It's I like to sum it up by saying we're not in competition. It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And so we encourage, we support. And I think part of that was born too out of when the group kind of started coming together. I'd just gotten into network marketing. And if you've ever met a brand new network marketer, oh Lord, it's like meeting a brand new Christian, right? They're going to beat you over the head with the Bible. And, with network marketers, they're beating you over the head with the show the plan. You got to join my business. You're like, I don't want to join anything. What is this? The cult? That's why everybody thinks they're cults. And they compare them to cults. But, the cool thing was I was in network marketing. Some of my other friends were too with me, but we didn't force it on our other friends, and then our other friends, they had their thing. We had we still do have a friend that was a Texas country music singer. She's kind of transitioned. She wrote a book, but I have another friend who's pretty open about the fact that she just wants a sugar daddy. So, that's fine too. Different ambitions for different people. We have
that route.
Yeah, she pretty much found one. She's got an attorney that's very wealthy that keeps her, she was married for years.
You know that there is a sugardaddy.com website?
Yes, I've heard that. She's not like that. She's older like me. So she's ironically, she's very conservative, but I'm just saying, she was a stay-at-home mom for years. Her marriage fell apart, which was not her fault. And, but she was glad it was over. They kind of needed to part ways. Like, she wasn't upset about it at all, really. But she got out there, and like her whole goal is to live in River Oaks. You know what I mean? And so she wanted to find a guy that could help her live in River Oaks, and, different goals for different people. And some people would say that's shallow, but if you met her, she's really one of the most sensitive, sweet people on the planet. But, and you will meet her eventually. And then I have another friend, she's, her husband runs a huge insurance agency. that her dad started, but her husband's really the one that made it amazing. And so they run this huge kind of insurance empire together. I had friends from pharmaceutical sales, friends that I met through Bible studies. I mean, they just kind of came from all different walks. And what we figured out is that, we all have the same struggles. We all have the same issues. We, a lot of us have kids. Some of the kids were grown. Some of the kids were younger. Some people had no kids. It really didn't matter, but we just would get together and have the best time. And we would travel and take trips together. And it got to where we really craved those moments. We were like, oh, when's our next Rebel Road sister trip? Because I need one bad. Because we would just get together and drink and hang out. And, and I mean, we've even had times like, heck, I did bodybuilding, for a couple of years. So I wouldn't even drink. And I still had a blast, so and just like we don't force anybody to do network marketing, we don't force anybody to drink. They can show up and not drink. That's fine. Although there will be a lot of alcohol around them. But no, and it's funny because what we find ourselves doing a lot of times is, we'll clear out all the furniture in a place we're staying and have a huge full-on dance party and drink all night. And then the next morning, like on our last trip, Abby Walker came in, who just wrote a book, and she's a pastor's kid. And we ended up sitting around in our pajamas, drinking mimosas and talking about Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, and that's our vibe. Yeah. And so, for years, I've had people tell me, you should make this available to everyone. Like, it shouldn't just be your group of friends. It should be for everyone. And our group has grown. And so, we're thinking about expanding this and creating chapters out of it and really making it a full-on thing. And a lot of that's thanks to Tina, because she's really helping me expand that vision, because she's sort of the how girl and I'm more the vision of what I want it to look like, because it's my baby. But yeah, no, I love it. What
I love about Rebel Road Sisters is, so last week, you start going through a funk, and I know you and I have had these conversations where you're a coach and you're out there and you're seeing all these people doing things, and you start getting down that comparison, trail. And so what I did this weekend is I took a whole 48 hours off of social media just to kind of clear my head and just to get off of social media. And it was so amazing. So amazing. But what I love about Rebel Road Sisters is that women who are in there put their struggles on there. Hey, I'm struggling with this and I'm struggling with this. And they're very real and upfront and honest. And there's nobody in there yet. Hopefully we won't have anybody in there that does this, but who criticize you for putting that up there and for being so vulnerable.
Yeah. And if anybody did that, I mean, hello, here's the door. Bye-bye. Yeah. We're just not about that, and that's why going forward, the creed of the Rebel Road Sisters and who we are and kind of whatever the road rules are that we come up with, which I may call it that, we'll really adhere to the fact that, this is not a place for mean girls. This is not a place for judgy girls. This is not a place for the moms that have the bumper sticker that says, my honor student beat up your honor student. That's not what this is about. It's talk about, it's not that we don't want you. I mean, we want people to brag on their kids and say how amazing their life is. That's awesome too. We want to celebrate the wins, but we're also not stupid enough to believe that your life is all wins. Exactly. I mean, that's just not reality. And that honestly, back in the day, I viewed Rebel Road Sisters as just a safe space to escape. But I'm starting to believe that Rebel Road Sisters is almost like a necessity for people these days, because
it really is.
You've got people literally committing suicide because they feel so inadequate and they feel so like, wow, everybody else has got it together. I mean, I find it interesting, and I don't know why no one else has drawn the comparison to the advent of social media and also the advent of suicide rates and depression going way up. And now everything's about mental health. I'm not saying mental health, and I understand some of that's the evolution of being free to talk about mental health, whereas you really couldn't in the past because there was a stigma attached. But I think the reason you're hearing about it even more now is because, ironically, we're talking about mental health, but yet society is just feeding
the highlight reel of everybody's life.
Yeah. Like, right. I got on the phone with Tina, she was even like, oh, you this, you that. I'm like, are you kidding me? Let me tell you, let's talk the real. Like the real, I always call it the real, REAL. Like, let's talk the real, which is life ain't easy. We all have our different struggles, new levels, new devils. I mean, I think that's part of the magic of the Rebel Road Sisters trip. People are a little bit shocked almost. And you have to be careful because just like Dr. Brene Brown wrote in Daring Greatly, shame is, she talks a lot about shame in that book and how people, can inherently sort of swallow this shame and just live with the shame that they never share with anybody. But shame can also be used as a weapon. Yeah. And I don't try to force anybody to talk about all their deep, dark secrets because we all have that chapter we don't want anybody to read, exactly. That if they read that chapter, they'd think differently about us. And I've had friends tell me before when I tell my whole story, for example, I've had friends say, one of my friends used to say all the time, she's like, never volunteer any added information. She used to say this, and this is why she's no longer part of the group ultimately, is because, I understand that I don't feel like people should be forced to share, but I'm not about living a fake life, and I do believe that and this is my saying and mine alone, but I always say that it's our brokenness that connects us. And if you don't share some of that brokenness, you don't share all of it. But if you don't share some of it, you're really going to have a tough time connecting with others because we're all imperfectly perfect,
Jennifer, I love that you said that because when I started sharing my story of, how I lost everything and how I had to regain it, but during that time where I lost everything, I felt like I had nothing. And when you do lose things, it's like I felt like I was in church and the pastor is talking and he's talking directly at you and you
exactly
right, and you're thinking, how does he know all my stuff that I'm going through? Mm-hmm. But he's not talking to you. He's talking to 25 other people in the room too, because they're all going through the same thing. They're just not saying nothing.
Yeah.
And so when I started sharing my story, so many more women came up to me saying, Tina, thank you. And I've gone through the same thing, and me too, and me too, and me too. And that is when I started going, you know what? It's selfish of me if I don't tell my story. And right. Stop putting that shame on women and anybody, because everybody has a story and everybody has that story. And when I heard your story, it made me think of you completely differently, going, oh, wow, she's a real person. She goes through real struggles too. So for those people who are out there and who are struggling or who are going through that comparison thing, and even me, people think, oh my God, you have this perfect life. Believe me, I do not.
Yeah.
But
it's a thin line too, right, Tina? Because that's your specialty, right? Is making, like, for example, part of why I came to you, is because I need somebody for my marketing. I need somebody to help with attraction marketing for my business, right? For my coaching, for my, for speaking, for, network marketing, for all that. So you don't want to be Debbie Downer all the time. Exactly. You don't want people going, oh, I don't want to be associated with that. You sort of have to earn the right to really get in there and learn about other people. But I do feel like with, getting back to Rebel Road Sisters, for sure, that I wanted to create a true sisterhood of women. And maybe it's because I didn't have any family myself back in the day, really, to speak of. I had half brothers and sisters, but I wasn't super connected with them. And I always longed for family. I longed for a safe space where you could take your makeup off, throw on your comfy PJs, grab a box of Kleenex and cry with your sister, and have your sister sit there and say, oh, I love you, honey. It's going to be okay. And I craved that as a younger person. And one of my half sisters really did offer that to me as a kid. I went through some stuff, my dad and I were far apart in age. He was kind of a tough guy to live with towards the end of his life. And had I not had her as an escape, had she not looked at me one day and said, listen, if it ever gets really bad, you just get out of that house, you walk to the nearest payphone, you call me, I will literally send a cab to come pick you up, take you to the airport, you're going to fly and you're going to come live with me. And if I hadn't had that in my head at all times, I might not have been as strong a person. If I look at these people who do commit suicide, who do, sink into these deep depressions. And I feel like in my mind, I'm thinking, first of all, that's such a lie from the enemy, because you have your own fingerprint for a reason. I mean, you are a masterpiece. You won the big swim. You beat 80 bajillion sperm to the egg. You're already a winner. You know, God literally planned for you to be here. You know, identical twins don't even have the same fingerprint, you know, which should tell you something about the fact that you are super gifted at something that no one else has and no one else will have. And the fact that people throw all that away because they're thinking they're worthless is sad. So I feel like if I can give them a sisterhood, I know I can't include guys in that, although some people have said we could always start chapters of Rebel Road Mistas, which
there you go.
which we could, but they'd have to be like redneck dudes. They'd have to like to hunt, fish, you know, I don't know. There'd be some things around that, but you know, they got to be real men.
So how can these women? So we have a lot of people asking how they can join Rebel Road Sisters. How can they join?
Well, you can find us on Facebook. We don't have a website yet. Technically, we do, but if you go there, it's not working. But we're going to get that ramp back up, I'm sure, here shortly. It's on my list of to-dos. But yes, we have a group. Tina can definitely show you how to get there too, because she helps me run that group. It's called.
I'll definitely put the link in. But if you go to facebook.com/Rebel Road Sisters, SISTAS, you'll go straight to the group. We'll let you in. But there are a few rules in there. You have to be authentic. You've got to be, you know, giving and having grace for everybody and be positive and, you know, be a part of the group. And I think every woman needs something like this to be part of. And to be honest, we have a lot of good, huge things coming for Rebel Road Sisters.
Yeah, it's really becoming more and more my baby. It was kind of funny. We have a big convenience store down here called Buc-ee's. And I was in Buc-ee's the other day. And my good friends, Amy and Jolie Sykes, who started Junk Gypsy, who kind of gave birth to the Rebel Road Sisters in a certain way. Their stuff was in Buc-ee's, and I've literally walked by and there's this thing hanging. In fact, I bought it. It's not up here, it's downstairs, but it was just a guitar with some wings on it and like a rose. And it said, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." And I thought, it's a sign, you know, get off your tushy there, J-Mo, and, you know, make it happen. But yeah, it's becoming a bigger and bigger priority. I do have another group that's more business focused called Killing It Collective, which I do love. I need to ramp up some interviews on that.
That is actually for men and women. So for men out there who are entrepreneurs, who are killing it in whatever business that you're doing, that is the group that you would want to be in.
That's more of a business mentorship, entrepreneur mentorship, just support for, you know, and we're going to be coming to you in that group with interviews with people who are already killing it in whatever field they're in. And hopefully, you know, to help people glean and get some takeaways from that. I think we're going to have a lot of cool gear launched around that as well. But
I think there's merch for both of these groups.
Yes. So much merch available. For both
and I get on the phone. We have like an hour-long phone call every week, and we get on the phone and it ends up being like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, we have like pages and pages of just ideas. Like, I keep telling her, I just need to come out there and see you for a week because we would get so much shit done.
We'd be dangerous. I told Tina if I could hire her full time, I would. But I was telling my husband the other night on a walk, I said, I think I need to get to where I pay for Tina to fly in once every quarter and we work for a week straight. But the problem is it's going to have to be 2 weeks because we're going to need a week we work and a week we play. Where we just go out and have fun, or we do it every other day.
Right, yeah, that'll be good.
Work, play.
I know that'll be so good. I think we should do that. I think we should totally do that. Okay, so Jennifer, we have a lot of things coming up. We got about 15 more minutes. I know you have a lot of things going on. What can we expect from the amazing J-Mo?
Well, I'm working on a book called Killing It. That's all about my, because I now own the trademark for Killing It and Killing It Collective, but it's just really it's not all about my journey. It's really about what I've learned on the way to becoming a #1 earner in network marketing and, you know, winning first place in NPC Masters Bikini and just people think that all these wins that I've had in life are separate, right? They are, but they're not. You know, I tell people, once you've been to the top of Success Mountain, then you know the path. It's like hiking any other mountain or hiking any other trail. You get more familiar with it the more times you go down it. And there's really a lot of characteristics, and I don't even want to call them characteristics because people then think, oh, I have to be born with it. You don't, but there's just things that you develop along the way that I think, you know, we always focus on things like Think and Grow Rich or Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, where they talk about the principles that separate the truly wealthy or successful from the rest of us. And I get that there are certain principles and certain ways you have to think. I'm more focused in killing it on the development that gets you there. Yeah. Like, because I didn't always think that way. You know, I didn't always have an abundance mindset. I didn't always have an entrepreneur mindset. I didn't always think I needed personal development. You know, I had a lot of pride going on. I had all this stuff. So, and I think a lot of people struggle with the same thing. And those are the things they overcome. Those are the obstacles on the trail. Those are where you figure out there's something in my path and I can't go through it. I got to go around it. And how do I do that? And so that's what Killing It's focused on. So that's coming. You know, I'm working right now, although I kind of put it on the back burner, but Success Magazine asked me if I'd be on their speakers bureau. So I'm submitting for all that. Hopefully going to get back out now that everybody's getting freed up to do some more speaking. And then I just got my real estate license too, and I'm doing some recruiting for EXP Realty because I have two very good friends who I very much respect and admire. In fact, one of them is president of Success Magazine, Don Hobbs, who also coined the term mega agent. He's literally like a superstar in the real estate world. And when they aligned with EXP, I bought stock in EXP and watched them for about a year. And my stock shot up to $200 a share, split. And I went, all right, this is the company I want to align with. And so, so I'm jumped on board with them to do some real estate investing, do some recruiting, things like that. So I'm excited about that. You know, my whole goal as an entrepreneur is to really have 7 forms of income. Now, of course, you're going to have 1 or 2 lanes that really get you there. You know, it's like, you know, I'm trying to think of, you know, Elon Musk. I'm sure he's got way more than 7 forms of income, but his main lane is Tesla, right? And then maybe SpaceX is a second big lane. But, you know, you can only really, you know, I don't want to be Michael Jordan where I'm playing basketball and all of a sudden I go play baseball and now I suck at both. So you have to be careful because focus builds champions. And that's one of the things I write about in Killing It is you've got to have a solidarity of purpose, a singleness of focus. You get too scattered, it falls apart. So as I tell Tina all the time, you know, I think constantly about that proverb, that Chinese proverb that says the man that chases 2 rabbits catches neither, you know. So you do have to have singleness of purpose, but I'm all about setting yourself up for multiple forms of passive income, keyword, yes, income. Because like, you know, I'm doing some Forex investing right now, actually, which totally has gotten bigger than I expected it to because there's some affiliate stuff attached to it. It's not network marketing, but I've done so well and it's just my nature to share it that I've now set up all these other people who are doing very well in Forex. I literally made almost $800 last week, just floating down the Guadalupe River with my daughter. And I love that. I've told everybody, if you can find a way to earn passive income and earn money while you sleep, absolutely do it, you know? And so that's huge. So I have a lot of passions in life, you know, I love to connect people with great people. That's probably the biggest passion I have. And I do that through network marketing and Rebel Road Sisters and Killing It Collective and all of that. But really my bigger calling, I think, and sometimes this is a hard one to balance with all the business stuff, but I really love connecting great people to their own greatness. Like they don't realize how unique and special they are through what God says about them. And that's really my ultimate calling. If you stripped it all away, that's what I'm all about. So
I think that is definitely your calling too. Because I think so many of us, we see it in other people, but it's hard for us to see it in ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and you know, one of the things I've shown when I've spoken before, and I encourage you guys to go Google it, but years ago, there was a Dove commercial that Dove launched this whole campaign. I forgot what it was called, but the name of the commercial, you could probably find it. Basically what they did was they hired an FBI sketch artist to come in, and it was in a huge warehouse, And the long version of the commercial, which you can find on YouTube, I think it's 11 minutes long, but of course they aired this commercial in like 60 seconds originally. But it was about really helping women to understand how beautiful they are and to quit being so negative about themselves. So these women would come in and they had kind of different groups, but so for example, Tina would come in, she'd sit behind a curtain so the sketch artist never saw her, and would start describing herself to the sketch artist. And it was supposed to be that he was going to sketch your face based on your description. Yeah. And then what they would do, and unbeknownst to the person getting sketched, unbeknownst to Tina, while she was in the waiting room, I was hired by Dove to come in there and just sit and meet people in the waiting room. And I meet Tina, and then I'm called in after Tina leaves, and they ask me to describe the woman I met in the waiting room. And what was literally will make you burst into tears is they bring the women in to see the two sketches. The one of themselves is usually hideous, old.
I've got the chills.
The one that other people described really was the closest to what they look like. Yeah. And was beautiful. And, you know, because we're so critical, we're like, oh my gosh, got my dad's nose. And, you know, I've got this gap down here in my teeth. I can't stand it. And I try not to smile real big because then people see it, you know, whatever. And so he's over here.
I didn't even notice the little gap.
Yeah. And he's like, describe the nose. Well, it's a little big, got a little bump. Oh, got that bump, you know, and, you know, I wish my eyes were bigger or whatever. And so, you know, he just focused on the face, and it was mind-blowing. I mean, and I show that video every chance I get when I speak. I even was asked to come in and speak to my daughter's competitive cheerleading squad before an NCAA competition, and the moms that stuck around were in tears. The girls were, even because they were teenagers, were freaked out by it, because they more than anybody are immersed in this world where everybody wants to look like Kim Kardashian or Kylie or Kendall.
You know, there's a new Dove commercial that I've been seeing about this beautiful girl, and she takes off all the filters, and you know, her lips go down and her cheeks go back out, and her you know, everything comes back, and it says to stop using so many filters because we're hurting young girls' self-esteem.
It is. We really are. And that's why I try to spend as much time, you know, you can, I heard a pastor say years ago, and I actually ended up on Fox News during Hurricane Harvey, which I'm very proud of that piece, because, you know, the Bible basically says you should do things to help others so that you don't, not to boast, right? And I didn't boast, but in retrospect, I'm proud of this clip because I did a lot to help others, but I didn't do it by myself. It was a team of people. It was so many people coming together. I might've been the catalyst because I'm a connector. That's just what I do. I've done that my whole life. So I connected the right people to the right people, and it became this huge movement in Hurricane Harvey. But when I ended up on Fox News, and that's what they wanted me to talk about, is how I started sitting on my couch in a mom's group on Facebook, how I turned it into this big movement of response during Hurricane Harvey. And they said, how did you not get overwhelmed, basically? And I said, you know, I heard a pastor say years ago, that it's one of my favorite pastors, Andy Stanley, out of Buckhead Church in Atlanta.
I went to his church many times.
I love Andy. And he said when he was a young pastor, he asked one of his mentors, because he was so overwhelmed, you know, by the need. You know, these poor pastors, they hear everything and they want to help everybody. That's why they're pastors. And they want everyone to know how great they are, you know, what God says about them, blah, blah, blah. And he literally said that his mentor just looked at him and said, listen, you as a human cannot save everyone. Only Jesus can do that, right? You just focus on one. If you can just save one.
Yeah.
And I said, that's what fueled me in Hurricane Harvey. I sat on that couch and I thought, okay, if I can just save one, because the need was overwhelming. People were dropping into this mom's group like, my house is flooding. Can somebody send a boat? I can't get out. My animals are stuck at the barn, like all this stuff. And you're like, oh my God. And for me as a connector, it made me want, my head was exploding. I was like, oh my God. Cause that's when I turned into Wonder Woman, where I just want to put on the cape and I want to go save them all with all my connections. I want to call everybody that I know with a boat, and I want to, you know, go everybody I know who's a veterinarian, go down and help that, you know, and I was freaking out. And I finally just said, okay, one. And I'd had one friend text me that the animals were stuck at the FFA barn, you know, so I focused on that one. And then, you know, we had some other friends who their daughter was good friends with my daughters, and their house was flooding and they couldn't get out. And so I just focused on getting them out, you know, and I just couldn't look at all the other need at the time. You know, you can only eat that elephant one bite at a time, you know? So, you know, it's difficult because, you know, I know, Tina, your heart's the same way. You know, you want to teach everybody how to love on people. I mean, what better freaking business is that, you know? And so I'm always shocked when, you know, like I think I even told Tina the other day, if I can be so bold, but you know, she she spends all this time teaching people how to be grateful because nobody was ever really grateful for her when she was younger. And it's those things that we most crave ourselves, or we felt like we're lacking, or there was a time where we were in the wilderness lacking that. That is what highlights what ultimately drives our purpose, right? So I was basically alone, right? After my parents died. So I craved connection. So I knew that I didn't have a family. So I had to create resources for myself. And in doing that, you know, I just kind of fell in love with people. I started realizing all these people have all these different gifts. It's like, I think I said it on your other show. To me, life is one big treasure hunt. And every person I get to meet, I get to uncover what's in their treasure box that God put there, you know? And that's what gives me joy in life, because I don't care what the news says. I don't care how evil and crazy and weird people are. At the end of the day, everybody's got treasure inside of them that God put there. And if you just look for that treasure in people, you'll live a lot happier, more adventure filled, more, it's okay, I'm not going to worry about the future type of life, you know? So
I love that about you. And that's why, you know, you're such a great connector. Jennifer, I always ask our guests, what is one thing that you wish you would have known then that you know now? So like, you know, when you first started becoming an entrepreneur or business owner, what is one thing?
Well, I think I might have said this before, so I don't mean to be redundant, but just that, you know, I wished that I had known more about personal growth and personal development in terms of just sheer business and sheer just getting to the next level in life, mindset wise, everything. It takes personal growth. I see so many people who they stop learning as soon as they get out of school, you know? And I'm like, you never can stop learning, you know? And I know there's people out there go, oh, I learn every day. I got the school of hard knocks, you know, God cuts me off in traffic. Oh, I learned me that
I learned how to use the bird really quickly.
Yeah, I learned how to use my horn. You know, no, that's not what I'm talking about. You need to read books that make you uncomfortable, you know? Like I'm reading a book right now. It's not up here because it's down by my little reading chair, but it's called The Road Back to You. And it's about your Enneagram. What is your Enneagram? Which Enneagram kind of came out of some old spiritual, like mystic type of stuff. But ironically, what made me want to read that book is I was digging through some old files, and I was married before, you know, we didn't have any kids, but this guy, Paul, and I were married 3 years, no kids, got divorced. Literally, we should have stayed friends and just not gotten married. He's a good guy, but it just didn't work out. But when we went for our consultation at the church, they gave us a personality test, and it was based on the Enneagrams. A lot of churches use the Enneagram, and it just kind of talks about who your personality is. And there's good and bad to every personality. To, you know, people look at me and they're like, you're Wonder Woman, and you achieve and you achieve and you achieve, and you're bold and you're a warrior. That's great when it's funneled at the right purpose, but I can also steamroll people when it's for the wrong purpose. You know what I mean? So this book gives you some self-awareness around that, so that you know how to not only be a better version of you, but to also understand who you're connecting with, which has always intrigued me since early on in network marketing. You know, when I first started getting into personal development, there was a guy back in the day. He was the Eric Worre before Eric Worre was Eric Worre, and his name was Jerry Clark. And he wrote a book called, or actually, I guess he recorded a series called Murphy's Committee, but he also recorded a CD set called The Magic of Colors. And it was all about your personality and what color are you. And so you have, in his in his version, reds, greens, blues, and yellows. I'm very red, which means that I'm very recognition motivated, money motivated. I'm also very blue. I jokingly say I'm purple because I love to have fun.
That's me. That's why we get along so good, because I'm a red and a blue.
Yeah. And if it's not fun, I don't want to do it.
Nope.
You know, but I can be different colors in different spaces. I can get very red in business. And if I'm working with somebody who's very blue in business, they will drive me nuts because I'm like, hey, this is about business. We need to go. Yeah. Whereas they're like, well, hey, let's go have a margarita. I'm like, not until we get this done, you know? But then when I'm on trips, like I'm very blue. When I go to Seaside, Florida next week, I'll be blue. Yeah. And when my husband starts talking about 4 days before we leave about how we need to pack and get ready to go home, I will get mad at him like I always do, because he's red, but he also has a lot of green where he gets very analytical. He's a planner. And to me, when I'm in my blue zone, he's a buzzkill. I'm like, I don't want anybody talking to me about going home, getting an Uber, packing, getting until literally like 3 hours before we leave, you know? Yeah. Otherwise, I'm like, I'm on vacation until the last possible second.
You're on vacation a week before you go on vacation.
Yeah. But you need to know the colors because you need to know how to come at people. Does that make sense? No matter what it is, it's not just for sales, it's for motivating your own children, because your children may be a different personality than you.
Yeah. And your husband, you know, just like with you, your husband is very green oriented. So, you know.
Yes, he's very green. He's a little introverted.
Guy, you know.
Yeah. And a lot of times people
how does that work? How does this work?
Yeah. And people don't realize what color they are. In fact, when, you know, our CEO for our company that I'm part of, this health and wellness company that I'm a top earner for, he did a big thing on an incentive trip, you know, which they all have to do. They have to do a workshop, you know, to write it all off. But he did a personality thing and he made us go to corners based on our colors, you know. Well, my husband goes and gets in the blue corner.
Like, oh no, you don't.
And everybody thought I was, pardon my French, but that I was a bitch from hell, because I was like, get your ass out of that blue corner. He is not
green corner.
He wants to be blue. So you can't read it as though this is what I aspire to be. Yeah. It's got to be, you've got to have enough self-awareness when you're doing personal growth and personal development to be like, wow, that's me, you know? But there's advantages to being a green, and like red and green, they're the CEOs of the world. They have the both. They have that, like, I'm super big vision, which is very red. Yeah. My husband can have vision. He can be very red, but then he also has the how, which is the green. Yeah. I don't have that much. I mean, I'm very clinical. Like, they made me a clinical specialist in pharmaceuticals, and I love facts. I am a show me girl. I always joke that I'm from Missouri. I'm show me state. Show me, show me, show me. I don't really just believe people when they tell me. Yeah. I need third-party facts. And I would use the word fact check, but I can't stand fact checkers now. But you know what I mean? Yeah. And I tested very low in yellow, which is servant leaders, like being a servant. Like, those are the people that want to save the whales and save the penguins and, you know, sing Kumbaya or whatever. Yes, that can drive me nuts. But my friends all argue, they're like, Jennifer, you're very yellow. But
well, I'm just talking about Hurricane Harvey. That was a yellow
thing to do. Yeah. And it wasn't motivated by recognition at all. But it was out of you know, my general need, the red in me is the need to conquer, right? To conquer this problem and to solve this problem. Yeah. And which is good. But I do joke that I serve in a very red way. So, like, for example, I won't make you dinner, but I will buy you dinner. You know? Like, this is why I need Tina Torres in my life, right? I need gratitude specialists. I need people.
Everybody needs a little Tina in their life, I think.
They do. I need somebody to love. Like, when I was in pharmaceuticals, my counterpart, Troy, they called his team Hold 'em and Hit 'em. And guess who was the hit 'em? And the only reason we became a top team is because there was the Troy. Yeah. You know, he was the one that was taking time with all the nurses, you know, how's little Bobby? And I brought you your favorite candy. Whereas I'm like, yeah. Let me talk to the doctor.
What is your favorite candy again?
Yeah. And I like, what's that nurse's name again? He'd be like, oh my God, Jennifer, you've met her 15 times, you know?
See, that could be me.
I don't even know her name, much less what her kid's name is. Whereas Troy knew all the kids, knew all the kid drama, knew the nurse drama. And I'm like, yeah. You go talk to them. I'm getting in front of the doctor with this clinical because I want to write my drug, you know? So they called us hold 'em and hit 'em. And
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So it can be good in the right situations, but bad in the others. So you need to know about your personality because, for example, when I'm recruiting in network marketing, let's say Tina's very she is very red, but also she's got to have some yellow or she wouldn't be teaching people how to be grateful, right? So if I came at Tina, let's say that was her dominant color was, oh, I just love people and I love puppies and babies and little spotted owls. If I come at her like, oh my gosh, you should join my company because
it makes this much money. It makes this much money. It makes this much money. I'm going to be like,
yeah, you're going to be like, that chick's all about the money. But if I came to her and I said, you know how you really wanted to save all the spotted owls? Yeah. Well, you know what? If you're going to go down on this trip to Peru, I don't know where the spotted owls are, but you know what I mean? Like to go spend 3 weeks, you know, rounding up all the spotted owls and tagging them and putting them in little camps to take care of them or whatever they do for spotted owls. That requires money, you know, and you still got rent to pay. You still got to buy the flight. So I'd be like, I figured out a way for you to go on your spotted owl retreat. You know what I mean? Like that's how you come at them.
Right. I love it. Okay, Jennifer, how can people get a hold of you? How can they see more of the famous JMO?
Pick up the bat phone, shine the light in the air, and I'll be there. No, I'm kidding. You can find me on Facebook. I'm Jennifer Merritt, M-A-R-E-T, like a female horse with a T on the end, Moran. Or you can find me at Jennifer Moran Official. And then I'm just anywhere Tina is. You find Tina, you'll find me.
Rebel Road Sisters, we have a group there. Join the group if you're a female entrepreneur, stay at home mom, whatever you are. We would love to have you. And then in Killing It Collective.
And I do have a website. It's called Grow with JMO because everybody calls me JMO, just the letter J, M-O. So Grow with JMO.
I won't tell them why.
Yeah. It's not because my last name's Moran. It started with J Lo, but that was already taken.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I got the booty. I do.
That's okay.
But anyway, yeah. So Grow with JMO.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. I love you. I cannot wait to come out and see you again. Watch this girl because we have big things, big vision. There's so many things coming with Rebel Road Sisters. I am so excited. So honored to be a part of it and so honored that you came on the show. You're going to be a co-host next month, I think 2 or 3 days while Angel is away.
I can't wait.
Right? I'm so excited. I'm Tina Torres, your client retention expert, otherwise known as the gratitude specialist. And if you're struggling with follow-up, go to masteringyourfollowup.com. You'll get a 5-day free masterclass. Every single day, you'll get a little bit of little tips and tricks on how to create that online relationship, both online and offline. So go to masteringyourfollowup.com. We are Angel and Tina on the Angel and Tina Morning Show. We come to you live every weekday morning at 11 a.m. and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day, guys.
Bye.